Hey everyone, thanks for being here. I didn't plan to become the unofficial host of Platform 2, but that's what happened on a cold Tuesday in Chicago. The red line was late, and the wind came from the river like it wanted to see what was inside my bones. I held a large coffee with both hands, told myself to be patient, and stepped closer to the edge to read the blinking sign. A man behind me bumped my elbow. My coffee jumped, my heart jumped, and a brown comet flew across the platform. It landed on a stranger's sketchbook. She looked up, calm eyes, black scarf, ink on her fingers. I froze. Then I spoke too fast. "I'm so sorry, I'll fix it, I'll buy you a new one, I'll buy 12. She laughed softly and said, "It's okay. I draw every day. A little coffee makes it warmer." The train arrived. She waved, I said sorry again, and I felt like the public enemy of paper. That night after work, I walked to an art store on State Street and bought a new sketchbook anyway. I left it with the cashier and a note. "For the artist from Belmont Platform 2. From the coffee spill guy." The next morning, I saw her again. She held the sketchbook. "Found your note," she said. "I'm Jamie." I told her my name. I told her I was 29, lived in Avondale, did web support for a small company in the Loop, and usually remembered my elbows. She smiled. "Welcome to Platform 2, Mike. We're a friendly crowd if nobody spills anything." After that, I started carrying a tiny kit in my backpack. It wasn't serious, just gum, 2 Band-Aids, a handful of napkins, a pen, a spare phone charger, and one of those mini sewing kits that looks like a hotel secret. I'm not a hero. I just didn't want more sketchbook disasters. But the kit changed my mornings. The first person I helped was a nurse named Tasha. Her mask loop broke on a windy day. I held out the sewing kit. She fixed it with 4 quick movements and said, "You are prepared, sir." Another time a college kid dropped his phone to 3% with the train still 20 minutes away. He looked scared. I held up the charger like a lifeguard with a rope. "You saved my homework," he said. A week later, Mr. Alvarez, a tall man with a violin case, asked if I had tissues. He was going to a funeral after his morning gig. I handed him the napkins and stood there, hands in pockets, while he told me about his cousin. When he finished, he took a breath and said, "Thank you for listening." I hadn't done much, but we both felt lighter. By March, the platform stopped feeling like a cold hallway I had to survive. It became a room with the door open. People nodded when they saw me. "Morning, charger guy." "Hey, Band-Aid." "Coffee spill." I didn't love that last one, but I accepted it. We started trading small things. Yolanda, who worked at a bakery in Logan Square, brought 2 extra blueberry muffins on Fridays and left one on the bench near the map. Ravi, a grad student who always carried a hardcover book, started a book swap with a shoebox and a sticky note. "Take one, leave one." I added a handful of hand warmers to the box because Chicago respects nobody in March. The small trades became small talks. We didn't share life stories. We shared weather complaints, bus times, sandwich tips, the best view from the 18th floor when the sun hit the river like metal. When the train crawled in, we stepped in and scattered through the car. Sometimes I stood near Jamie and watched her draw people without looking at the page. She said it helped her think. I said I wished I had a skill that looked like magic. "Being nice is a skill," she said, and I felt 10 feet tall. One day I brought index cards and a marker from the office. On the top card I wrote, One good thing today? I put it on the bench. People wrote in quiet letters. My cat finally used the new bed. Got the job. Free donut at work. Saw snow sparkle like sugar. By the end of the week the stack was thick. We kept them in the shoebox with the paperbacks, and when a train was late, someone would read a few out loud, slowly, as if the ink needed time to breathe. It felt like a secret password to a city that can be loud and fast and private. I thought, this is the nicest accident I've ever caused. On the first warm morning in April, the sun made the tracks shine like they were polished overnight. I brought iced coffee instead of hot, as a personal safety plan. The wind had lost its knives. A man in a Cubs cap looked around and said to me, "Feels like this city forgave us." I laughed. "What did we do?" He shrugged. "Survived February." We watched a train snake in from the north, metal and sunlight, doors opening with that heavy sigh. We moved together like a long, slow wave. I knew maybe 4 names, maybe 10 stories, maybe 50 tiny facts. But I knew one larger thing. I didn't feel invisible anymore on my commute. I felt like part of a very small town that just happened to ride the red line. And all of it started with a clumsy elbow and a flying coffee that landed on a page and, somehow, opened a door. In late May the city switched to its summer face. Open windows, backyard laughter, the smell of grilled onions drifting like music down the sidewalks. I kept my kit, new Band-Aids, more gum, extra charger, but most mornings I didn't need it. People brought their own sunshine. Tasha, the nurse, started a 2-minute story, rule for delays. If the train was late, whoever stood by the map told a tiny story. It couldn't be sad. It couldn't be a complaint. It had to be one good moment from the last week. "I learned to whistle with my fingers," said a teenager in a red hoodie, then proved it so loudly a pigeon flapped away in shock. "My cousin opened a food truck and the fries tasted like a summer job," said a man with paint on his jeans. "I biked along the lake at sunrise," Jamie said one morning, "and the water looked like glass with a heartbeat." We clapped softly, because applause on a platform feels too loud for mourning. I made little name tags one day as a joke, sticky labels with a cartoon train I printed at work. People wrote however they felt. Yolanda bakes too much, Ravi swaps books, Tasha, Vax Queen, Mike, coffee spill, still sorry. A tourist family asked if we were part of a tour. "Kind of," Ravi said. "A tour of waiting." The dad laughed, took a picture of the shoebox library, and left a copy of a thriller he finished on the plane. Someone slid in a Spanish poetry book. Someone added a crossword magazine with half the puzzles blank. Our shoebox looked like a suitcase that wanted to travel. There were tiny mistakes that made us laugh. I tried to give a dog treat to a man because I saw the corner of a leash in his bag. Turned out it was a measuring tape. He accepted the treat anyway and said his apartment would enjoy it. Yolanda once handed a stranger a muffin that was meant for me. He bit it, realized the misunderstanding, and held it up like a peace flag. Jamie drew a quick cartoon muffin and taped it above the bench with the words, "Unclaimed Destiny." We kept the sign up for a week. I learned other things too, how the platform warmed in stripes where the early sun slid through the railings, how the first train after a Cubs home game carried tired joy, how tourists looked at the route map as if it were a puzzle with a secret lake behind it. I learned the small sound people make when they recognize one another, not a word, more like a soft release of breath, as if pressure inside the day suddenly drops. I liked that sound. Then, in June, the storm came. the city woke gray. The forecast used words like cell, and system, and stall. At 5 p.m., the sky went the color of old metal. At 5:15 the first lightning arrived, bright and close, and the lake threw back the sound like a taunt. By 5:30 sirens. I finished work and hurried to the red line, shoes already wet. When I reached platform 2, 30 people waited in damp circles. The sign said, "Delays." The speaker said, "Significant delays." Then it said, "Service suspended due to power issues." I looked at the crowd and saw the tiny town I knew, mixed with new faces. Tasha checked her phone and frowned. Mr. Alvarez held his violin case like a small sleeping animal. The wind pushed rain across the platform in silver lines. A train didn't come. We stared at the tracks, at the water, at each other. Then Yolanda said, "The donut shop on the corner is open." She pointed up the stairs toward street level. "They have power." People hesitated, like we needed permission to leave the exact place where the problem lived. I felt something move inside me, the same feeling that made me put Band-Aids in my bag after spilling coffee. I lifted my voice. "Let's go as a group," I said. "We can wait there. I'll text anyone who arrives late." Tasha nodded. "Good idea." Ravi raised his phone. "I'll create a chat," he said, already typing, "platform 2 people. And then 30 of us, maybe more, climb the wet stairs together, umbrellas like small planets, and cross to Maple and Main, the donut shop that solves more human problems than any office ever could." Inside it smelled like sugar and relief. We took over the back half. The owner, a man with a handlebar mustache and a Cubs cap, looked at our wet clothes and said, "It's a house rule. Storm customers get warm coffee refills." We laughed like we were already dry. We pulled tables together. We handed out paper napkins like tiny blankets. We plugged phones into a power strip the owner brought from the kitchen. Lightning turned the windows into mirrors for a second, then the glass went dark again and showed us to ourselves, damp, surprised, together. Ravi passed the phone around and we added our numbers to the group chat, platform 2. Someone made a second chat for photos. Jamie drew fast on a napkin, the platform bench wearing a raincoat, and taped it to the wall with a piece of donut box. Tasha took a head count and said, "Anybody need to be somewhere for health reasons?" A quiet man at the edge raised a hand. "My mom's oxygen is low at home," he said. He was pale and 30 and terrified. Tasha called his phone, spoke to the mom, talked him through how to check the tank, and then called a neighbor. She put the neighbor on speaker and arranged for help. We all listened like we could push our support through the line. When she hung up, the man covered his face with both hands. "Thank you," he said into his palms. We didn't clap. We just breathed out, all at once. We stayed for 2 hours while the sky argued with itself. The donut shop turned into a small ship, and we were passengers learning each other's names without the usual hurry. Mr. Alvarez opened his violin case and played something soft and patient, a piece that made the storm sound like a drummer who knew when to rest. The owner dimmed the lights a little and put 2 more coffee pots on. A teenager taught an older woman how to use her phone's flashlight. Someone started a game of 20 questions at the long table and people joined and left like birds at a wire. I passed around my kit, chargers, gum, Band-Aids for a paper cut on a donut box, and felt like a low-budget medic in a sweet war. Every few minutes Ravi read updates from the transit app. "Power restored at Fullerton. Shuttle buses delayed. Hang tight, the last one said, and we laughed at the idea that an app knew us well enough to use that voice. At some point I realized I was standing. Not running a show, just moving from table to table, checking in, pouring water, holding doors. It felt natural, like I had grown into a role I didn't order but fit anyway. Jamie came over with 2 napkin drawings, a donut with a cape, and me with a tiny lightning bolt above my head. "You're hosting," she said. "You always have been." I looked at the room, the wet shoes lying near the door, the man in the corner finally smiling after the call about his mom, Tasha telling a joke only nurses would understand, Yolanda wrapping extra donuts in paper to hand out when we left, and I believed her. The trains came back in pieces. At 8:15, someone's phone buzzed with a route alert like a distant trumpet. We finished our drinks, packed up the library shoebox, yes, it had traveled with us, and went back to the station. The platform was slick but calm now. When the red line finally groaned in, we moved like a group that had learned a password. On the train, we sat near each other without planning it. When my stop came, I stood and held the rail and said, "Same time, less rain?" People smiled. Ravi lifted his phone. "Platform 2 chat lives," he said. "Tuesday after work. Maple and Maine. Even if there's no storm." We kept that promise. The next week, we met on purpose. No thunder required. We ordered cheap coffee and the owner invented a delay special, that is basically 3 donut holes and a story. People brought things, a deck of cards, a zine Jamie printed at her studio, a crossword Ravi couldn't finish, a playlist Tasha made called Rain Delay. I printed little cards for "One Good Thing Today" and put them in a glass jar. We read them like fortune cookies. My nephew learned to tie his shoes. I saw a squirrel carry a bagel like a trophy. I asked for a raise. The jar made its way to Tuesdays and then to mornings on the platform again, a small heartbeat in paper form. By July our group chat was a busy street. We warned each other about service changes, shared photos of the skyline at weird hours, asked, "Anyone need sunscreen?" on a heat advisory day. When a new person appeared on the platform looking lost, someone guided them to the right end for a seat. When Yolanda's bakery had a slow morning, we all showed up before work and bought more muffins than sense. "Stop," she said, laughing. "I can't bake this fast." But she looked happy with flour on her sleeve. The city didn't change. The honking stayed. The rent didn't blink. Work remained work, support tickets, passwords, tiny panics about websites that refused to load. But the texture of my days changed. I used to float through my commute like a ghost who didn't know anyone. Now I felt stitched to the morning by names and habits. It made me braver in small ways. I asked my boss for a flexible hour on Tuesdays so I could leave a little early for the meetup. He said yes, surprised at how confident I sounded. I said hi to neighbors I'd ignored for years. I started bringing my old acoustic guitar to the donut shop, just once, then twice, then most weeks. Mr. Alvarez showed me how to keep the rhythm soft. "Think heartbeat, not fireworks," he said. We played while people chatted. It wasn't a concert. It was a soundtrack for talking. One Tuesday in August, a family from out of town wandered in, parents and a 10-year-old girl who looked like a small detective. They had missed a connection and were trying to stay cheerful. The mom said, "We just need a good sign." Right then a break in the clouds sent sun straight through the front window, and the girl stepped into the light and announced, "Found one." We all cheered like someone had won a prize. Later, as they left, the dad said to me, "I didn't know a city could be this kind." I thought of all the mornings that felt like a race I never won, all the days I believed kindness belonged to small towns with slow roads. "It can," I said. "You just have to wait in the right places." When fall arrived, we added tea to the table and scarves to our shoulders. The jar of good things grew heavy. I kept one card in my wallet. It wasn't profound. It said, in plain letters, "Shared charger made a friend." On dark mornings when the wind returned with its old sharp voice, I touched the edge of that card and felt warm. I still made mistakes. Spilled a little coffee again, said the wrong stop once, bought decaf by accident, and wondered why the world moved so slow. But the mistakes didn't feel like proof that I didn't belong. They felt like proof that I was in the middle of things, alive enough to drop them. These days, when the speaker on the platform says, "Attention passengers," I look up automatically. Not because I expect bad news, but because it's my cue to check the bench, straighten the shoebox library, hold out a charger if someone needs it, and say good morning to whoever is new. I'm not important. I'm just a person who brings small tools and stays long enough to watch strangers turn into neighbors. That's enough. On the way downtown, the train crosses the river, steel over water. I see our city in the window, bridges, glass sky, a little smudge where rain once erased the schedule and gave us a room full of donut sugar and music. I smile, not because I love delays, but because when the train is late, I never feel stuck anymore. I feel ready.